Ningaloo, where a sparkling turquoise sea washes into the red earth. And below, a kaleidoscope of marine life. It's photographer Brooke Pike's favourite place to be.
Just the vibrancy of the colours, the diversity of coral species, the beautiful fish that live amongst all those organisms.
But now, Ningaloo is using its treasured colours to send out an SOS.
Everything was just completely white. It was very stark. It was an entire shock to our systems when we dived down on a reef that we are so familiar with. Some of the worst coral bleaching I've ever seen in my life.
The widespread coral bleaching is due to an intense marine heat wave that struck northwestern Australia late last year.
We were seeing some locations along the Western Australian coastline, including Ningaloo, as high as 4 degrees warmer than they should be. For a coral, it is the difference between having a normal temperature versus having a raging fever.
Until now, Ningaloo and other WA reefs have mostly avoided major bleaching events.
But this time we've now seen every reef in Western Australia bleach in a single event.
James Gilmore from Australia's Institute of Marine Science says it's the first time 2 World Heritage reefs on opposite sides of the country were hit simultaneously.
There is no doubt that this is the worst that WA has experienced, and when you combine it with the Great Barrier Reef, it's the worst bleaching event in Australia's history.
A few months on, we've come to Ningaloo to meet molecular ecologist Kate Quigley for an underwater tour of one of the worst hit areas. Bleaching doesn't always mean death, but early surveys on this section of reef estimate mortality of up to 60%.
We're kind of all waiting with bated breath on those exact numbers, but given what we know about the relationship between coral health and warming, it's unlikely to be good.
There are patches of reefs that are good, and we can swim around and we can see some live corals in areas that we know that at least in the next few years will replenish the others. The reefs are very resilient, nature is very resilient, but of course if you keep hitting it with impacts then it can't recover, right? So, and that's the situation if it happens every couple of years.
A healthy reef doesn't just make for pretty pictures, it's critically important for both ecological and economic reasons. Just ask anyone who lives in the tourist town of Exmouth, synonymous with snorkelling on Ningaloo.
Definitely has the potential to affect our business. I mean, our business is centred around looking at essentially coral and fish.
Craig Kitson runs a glass-bottom boat tourism business. While some operators prefer not to draw attention to the bleaching, Craig says it's vital people see what's happening.
I think it's more important now that people connect with the place more than ever and come and see that this isn't something happening in some far-off country, this is happening in our backyard.
So Western Australian reefs, I'm happy to say, is still among the healthiest on the planet, and that's without a doubt. But we are now seeing climate change catch up with even them.
The state government is under pressure from the Greens, who say it highlights the need for stronger climate action. The WA government has pledged to reach net zero by 2050, but is yet to pass legislation to help it get there.
WA Labor brought a climate bill into Parliament in December 2023 and they've just let it sit there ever since. We've reintroduced that bill, but critically we've put a 2030 target in it because WA is the only state without one.
What will address this is global action on climate change. There's no doubt about that. And I think the issue there is, like, we have seen some of our big partners walk away from their commitments, and that's what's most alarming, because the efforts that we take here in WA will be paled into insignificance in terms of what those countries do when they walk away from action on climate change.
Back in Exmouth, Kate Quigley and her team at the philanthropic Minderoo Foundation are breeding heat-resilient corals to cope with more frequent marine heat waves.
So can we effectively take for example, heat-tolerant mom coral and a less heat-tolerant dad coral, mix them together and create baby corals that are better able to withstand warming temperatures? While this is really encouraging and we're very happy with these results, especially after such a catastrophic year in terms of warming and bleaching on the reef, it is no silver bullet.
We tell everyone that comes on board that they're now an ambassador for the reef, and they need to go forward and tell people, and the way they vote and the way they live their lives is really important, and it's crucial for the next generations. We're just custodians of the place that we live,